there is a shift to push Kenyan experts away from the area of their expertise and to bombard them with administrative duties so that they're just busy pushing numbers, giving orders, and doing nothing. Okay, but
because the system benefits from that. When you take an expert in let's say in governance, and you put him in an accounts office, you've killed that questioning of governance, because that guy is stuck in the accounts office. If he's a conservation person, you've killed those questions about how we are managing our parks. You've stuck that guy in an accounts office. It's there in conservation NGOs as well. Top black qualified people are put in administrative offices, whereas the policy making offices, the offices that run the grants, are run by foreign expatriates. We are a nation of technicians, with all due respect to technicians, but we are not thinkers. We are not thinkers, and it's very sad that loss of our soul is just, and the way it's celebrated. Kenyans are aggressively ignorant.
In fact, I wanted to bring up that point earlier about how society rewards thinkers. You know, what happens when you think materially and socially? What happens? What do we do to our thinkers?
In Kenya, we shun them, and I think and even now, as we are discussing this, there are people who will be listening to this and thinking, Wandia wants us to start paying thinkers because we are materialists. We cannot see the intangible. A reward for a thinker, if I can call myself one, all I'd need is give me a space every 2 months or 3 months and invite me to just talk about what I've been thinking about. I'd find that incredibly satisfying. Give us a space to talk about what we are talking about now, and have others participate in that. That's been incredibly satisfying. I mean, give us opportunities to teach. And one thing I wouldn't consider an opportunity to teach to be much of a material reward. I'm sort of past where I'm looking for that for material purposes. But embrace our thinking. Let people listen to what we have to say. If they want to reject it, fine. If I talk to a group of 100 students and only 2 get what I'm saying, I've gained 2. I've gained 2 thinkers. I've sort of doubled the number of thinkers in that room, or tripled it. So I think we need to look at that. But right now, Kenya is so stuck in the material thing. Even scholars in the universities are looking for promotion to senior administrative position, not senior academic position, senior administrative positions in the university. And when they reach there, they're looking for senior positions in government.
Oh, yes.
No one is seeking to be professor emeritus. You want to be professor, then PS, professor, then cabinet secretary. And you can see the mentality that pervades our universities by just looking at a sample of the academics that have made it into government. They do not function any differently. The cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Education does not speak any differently in tone, having been a professor. His tone is no different from that of the chief administrative secretary who was a student rabble rouser. There's no difference in their speech. And that is a challenge. And you look at student leaders now, and you think they're crazy from what they say, but from that drivel they say, they speak. Look at where it's gotten Babu Owino.
In fact, I was just about to mention
fame and fortune. Yeah, fame and fortune. And that's
what happens to a society that makes us have people like those in leadership? And I'm thinking also of Sonko,
Yes.
And it's such a violence on the mind when you watch them, because you're thinking, here is a guy behaving like a fool, but I have to treat him like a leader who can shift resources and have an impact on my life. But the way he's behaving has no reverence for that role. What kind of thing has happened to us to accept leaders like those?
Ignorance has played a big part in it. But on the part of intellectuals, it is pure old-fashioned cowardice. And we don't want to think, because that we are terrified to use our knowledge. So there's no water supply here, but thank God I've got a PhD and a good job, so I can afford to bring a Bowser. So I don't need to elect a leader who can ensure water supply. So I fell out with a lot of my sort of academic peers in the lead up to the election, because I said, set aside parties. Can you explain to me why you people as intellectuals in Nairobi are supporting? These are people who had told me openly they are supporting Sonko's candidature. Can you tell me why you at your level of education should support someone like Sonko? And forget about the party. Can you find someone better qualified within the party you are supporting? And they told me that, you don't know what's going on. These are the people who can make things work. After all, Ogada is there, and all this kind of nonsense. After Sonko got in there, it's like, you put a monkey in a room with bananas, then you start complaining about these banana peels and feces on the floor. And then they're the same people who, when now we argue again about the legality of serving military officers into public service, they say no, but we can't have Sonko and all that, and this is discipline and all this kind of thing. And say no, there's laws that govern the way the military functions, and they said it's all wonderful. I was in Nairobi a couple of days ago, and I had the dubious privilege of driving past Marikiti. The water was about half a foot deep on the road, and I ended up splashing horrible water on a bunch of people, and unwittingly, because of the potholes. And that's the CBD. And I say, where's the clean
military precision? Getting things done.
It's like a couple of streets, and then I'm seeing water tankers. I went to some residential areas. I'm seeing water tankers marked NMS delivering water. No, the water should be coming through pipes if they are doing stuff right. It should be coming through water tankers. And that's the thing, is that this steadfast refusal to, or terror of using your knowledge. That's why Nairobi has the distinction of electing to public office the crassest and worst of our society.
Actually, it's not just
someone like Sonko couldn't win anywhere else apart from Nairobi.
That is true.
Babu Owino couldn't be an MP anywhere else apart from Nairobi.
That is true.
Jaguar couldn't win any seat anywhere apart from Nairobi. That's because the middle class, the educated elite, are steadfast in their cowardice and refusal to use their knowledge, and it's because they're cowards.
And that explains why I've been puzzled. Students pick nonsense from the streets. In fact, I keep telling them, you people are being pedestrian. Somebody like Magoha says, look at teenage pregnancies, what is wrong with parents? A student brings that as a topic. And using that argument as their theoretical foundation of a paper. I used to wonder, why are you accepting things you hear on the radio and bringing it and saying, now I'm going to show a paper to prove. And they won't even say that this is what Magoha said. They'll say it like it's a truth. It becomes a truth. It has no origin, no context, and they'll treat it like a theory.
And yet they don't realize that a lot of these statements by government officials, especially during this time of the COVID pandemic, are statements made to justify a field trip and per diem somewhere. I mean, teenage pregnancies, we have government offices and organs that need to deal with that. But the CS had gone somewhere with this whole team during this pandemic, violating the no movement rules. So he needed to make a statement to be known that he had gone to Garissa and he found a serious problem there. And that's for the auditors to see. But he as a student grabbing it and saying, "Hey, this is an issue, serious issue." And we are, I think David Ndii is the one who uses the term, like, we are becoming hollow people. We have no soul. And there's a professor who was a mentor of mine who sadly passed away a few days ago, was laid to rest a few days ago, and he told me, like, the only thing you need to understand is that you need to know what you're doing and you need to know why you're doing it. Reasons from within yourself. You have to have reason from within yourself why you do anything. Because if he said the external reasons that you might decide to follow, they can end. The only thing that's sort of permanent in trajectory and presence, you never run away from yourself. Yeah, that reason within yourself why you did it will be there for the next 50 years, the rest of your life. But we look for externalities and temporary things because suddenly the government said TVET, so we should also do TVET. I mean, there are people who are skilled in these things and they know themselves and they're pursuing these things. So someone who wants to do something in the arts, why do you want to railroad him to get into the technical fields? And it's because we have this thinking that the technical fields, it's sort of like Madarau, like technical fields is something down there. And the only thing that opened my eyes is, like, go to Germany and see what a polytechnic is there. A polytechnic is like engineers, the best technician in designing pumps or something is a revered figure. He's revered, and he teaches in a polytechnic, and you find Mercedes-Benz will want to design their water pumps. They are taking people from that polytechnic taught by Mr. So-and-so. He's not even Professor so-and-so, he's Mr. So-and-so. And that's what it is. So these are not people who are told, I leave literature, go to water pump engineering. No, this is a guy following his dream was to be a water pump engineer. And that's why, look, engineering, I need not say much about where Germany is in engineering. Yeah.
Maybe you can explain to us, because people have been telling me we need TVET because Germany has engineers. Can you just explain what the problem is with that direct logic?
The problem is not engineers, it's the engineering. And yes, we are talking about TVET, yet I know engineering graduates are not getting jobs. Where will they go? Yet the government, every last engineering project is awarded to foreign companies who can grease their channels the right way. Where does a qualified Kenyan engineer go now? And some of them get employed in government, not to build anything, but to go and inspect projects. Is the drainage working, etc., etc. And if you write a report that, okay, from your knowledge, the problem of using your knowledge, you go and do your calculations from what you are taught in class and you realize this drainage here, it's not going to work. When the rains come, water will accumulate here and knock down that wall there. You write that in your report. You will get a phone call that night from maybe even the cabinet level or senior level, asking, why are you bugging our contractors? You are not disturbing our contractors. Who do you think you are?
Wow.
So sign off on that thing now, Nyamaze. So why do you study engineering? And even if I come back to my field, many students ask me that, okay, I'm thinking of going to studying conservation biology or ecology, etc. What can you advise? And what I advise them that, if you are not, you have to decide before you enter the field. Are you ready to get in and fight, or are you ready to just get in and prostitute your knowledge? Once you make that decision and you make peace with it, go ahead.
I've said the same thing about the arts. You know, if you want to be a true artist, you have to prepare to fight. You have to fight to think, to create. Because
to find space.
To find space, you will have to fight.
Yeah.
It's not
if you're not ready to fight, if you're not ready to fight, wachana nayo. Yeah, that's the truth of the matter. And some of them make peace. They go and do PhDs and get good jobs to promote what the Nature Conservancy is doing in Kenya, and they get big cars with the red number plates to drive around, implementing projects that are thought up by people who have secondary school education, and they make it look good.
Speaking of doing PhDs, maybe we could talk about the kind of why people are going for postgraduate studies, but more than that, the kind of topics and what is motivating them to pick their topics. I really like what you said about being able to have doing a thesis where you can think beyond the paper.
Sadly, because of sadly, a lot of postgraduate studies now is driven by unemployment. I can't find someone to enslave me. Let me go back to school. And they because, okay, talking about myself, when I started my master's, I started the coursework miles away from any research. I already knew what I wanted to do for research. So these guys, let me go register for a master's. Which department is easier to get into, where I won't be disturbed? Enter that department. Do your coursework. Okay. Teacher comes, teaches, you reproduce that in the exam, you pass. Then you finish your coursework. And then that's when you start looking for people like Wandia and Joya, Mordecai Ogada. I'm looking for a topic. I think you've heard this tragic phrase before. I'm looking for a topic.
Or interviews. The one I don't like, and I'm getting many requests, is interviews. Interviews to produce material for people's thesis. When I have so much material there, the thing to do is to read.
Yes.
Read what I've said. Yes. Then you can ask me about what I've said.
Yeah,
you don't have to do some open-ended interview. I'm just tired.
Yeah, I said that there's so much of my stuff on YouTube, on the internet, and everything, and then some people come. I'm doing this topic, and I want to interview, and I look and I do like you. You mean you can come to me as a data point?
That's it. Native informant. You're a native informant.
Yeah.
It's insulting, actually.
Yes, it's very belittling. You've gone around interviewing people who have all said, given you all the globally accepted lines that there are too many Africans. We need to reduce birth to make space for wildlife. That nonsense. Then you decide, now I need a contra review. Let me find Mordecai Ogada. Because he's the only one who will tell me these truths. And I tell him, no, I'm not a data point. You want me involved in your thesis, you approach me prior to be your supervisor.
That is true.
And I don't give advice to students who already have 3 supervisors who are being paid and who will have their names on the thesis. That's what I expect from the knowledge I have gained. And it's not money, but I have to have that respect. That's not compromisable. So I think the topics now, you touched on it. They're driven by current things. You like some uneducated but person with a big grant decided to move rhinos or elephants somewhere for his own edification. And one thing, donors are in love with these, these photos of the immobilized animal on the ground with a collar around his neck or being lifted onto a truck. Donors love those photos. So someone did this project for those photos. Then a student decided, I want to do a thesis on the procedure and challenges of moving elephants from point A to point B. That's it. I'm sorry to say, that's what's called useless, spurious research, because it's research based on somebody's childhood dreams. It is not helpful. And then another thing, like when a student comes to say, I'm looking for a topic and all that, and even how do you do a whole year of, you've done an undergraduate degree in biology, then you've done a whole year of coursework in ecology, and at the end of that, you still have no idea what to study. Because that's a problem. It takes commitment. For example, if you're going to study birds, you are committing yourself to a year of waking up at 5 to catch them before, Yeah. If you're not interested in birds, you will not wake up at 5 every day for a year. That's why you end up now with cooked theses that are now written for you by somebody in the back street somewhere. And that has bled so much into our academia that actually you have teachers, lecturers who had theses done for them. And he cannot tell you how to do the stats, the analysis. So when you come to him for help, he refers you to those guys the thesis factories. He refers you to them.
Serious?
Yes. And he gets a cut from them for every student he refers there. And that's where we've gotten to. I mean, Kenya is one place right now you should never, ever. I mean, literally, when you request for CVs, let's say you're recruiting for one thing or the other, literally, the CV is almost something you should ignore. Just look at, we asked for someone with a master's. Look, does he have a master's? Ask, then shortlist based on that. All the rest of the stuff written there is potentially BS. You can only tell when you interview the person. And that's why, there's a lot of corruption and preferential treatment in recruitment in Kenya, but I can see where that's coming from. A lot of people, and I've gone through this as well, like where people call me like, Mordecai, I'm looking for a good field officer to do this and this and this. Do you know someone? And they'll say, okay, because he trusts my judgment. I tell him, okay, there's this really good student. I know who's I give them the contact. Because they say you get with people sitting in front of you as a PhD and you end up recruiting him and he has no idea. I mean, I don't know where I read it, but someone said, like, you want to kill a country, kill its academy. There'll be nothing left. We cannot even rely on our papers now because look, the law says even that certain political offices require degrees. There are people who have run for those political offices and are in there, and you are told that there is a degree certificate he presented to IEBC. And we cheat ourselves that, okay, it's genuine. Even Sonko has a degree.
Yeah, he does.
He does. We actually convince ourselves that, no, I don't want to ask much. I know he presented a degree there. You look at graduation ceremonies and you see sitting politicians among the graduates and you're like, what?
The last I've been seeing you on the news every day, you couldn't have had time to.
No, you are an executive of a county or of a ministry or of a government. Full-time job. As in, you are in those positions where there's no leave. Even 1 week's leave does not exist because that's the nature of your job. And you're telling me you completed a postgraduate course
and wrote a thesis.
And it's been passed. And you realize that problem comes from our universities when a sitting governor or MP or whatever senior politician comes for admission into postgraduate, you shouldn't give it. As a patriotic duty, you are serving the country. And you tell them, like, look, we know you'll be a very committed student, you'll be a wonderful student, but we don't want the other Kenyans who need your services to suffer from your studious seriousness. And so please come back once you leave office. You are welcome. We'll just defer you. You are qualified, but we'll just defer your admission. Because again, once he comes in, you can't fail him. You can't tell him, go to the field, go back to the field. If the academia had a soul, that's what they tell these people. But instead they admit them, okay, he's got the fee, he's paid in fact in advance for all the 3 years. Academia exposes itself. That's why you go into University of Nairobi, these thesis factories are advertising on notice boards in the departments.
And these days you can tell when somebody has bought a paper.
Yeah,
you can see it you can hear it when you read it. It's rather obvious.
Yeah.
They didn't write the paper.
And then again we are in this there's an African part of our sort of African psychological makeup that makes us defer to people who we call experts, or who call themselves experts. Daktari. In Luo we have this term ajuoga, which we use in terms of anyone with a PhD or doctor, whatever. It's the Luo, but in Luo it means a sage. Traditionally, a ajuoga is not someone who is questioned. So PhD people go to interviews and put their certificates there and sit there looking the part. And interviewers don't ask them questions, especially interviewers who don't have PhDs. You are the HR officer. If I come ask for a job, the HR officer should feel free to question me on what I claim to know, even if he or she does not have a PhD like me. That's her job to question, but we don't do that. So these people get into these positions and they don't know anything.
So this is not a problem of technical.
No,
whatever. It's a problem of the soul.
Problem. Yes, it's a human problem.
So I don't know if you see any way out of this.
It will be trauma of some sort. Like when I see a university in financial difficulties right now, and I see that university for the last decade has spent billions, not on research, not on personnel, not on education, but on infrastructure. I sort of in my mind think, I mean, I feel a bit guilty, but in my mind I say, I wish it would completely collapse financially. And then everyone who was there for money would run away and only leave those who are committed. Let people be told one day, like, you guys, there's no money. The next 6 months, hakuna mshahara. The deadwood would just go away. And they'd leave the others. And you see, if you looked at the unseemly fight for the leadership of University of Nairobi, don't kid yourself that was based on any academic considerations. It's to control, I don't know, I've heard that the budget of that university is like some counties. It's big. Yeah, it's to control that, especially for the DVC academic position and these kind of things. So I think it won't be a deliberate thing, but at some point this thing will collapse on itself. The structural adjustment programs people have sort of lived their academic life out, and people now realize it's rubbish. That what they're teaching is not useful. So some courses are dying because there's no content, because that teacher cannot give you any academic ideas. That supervisor cannot tell you how to do your statistics, and they're collapsing. And I think renewal will come, but I think collapse has to come first, because I don't see how else you'd you'd get rid of all this deadwood unless you are North Korea and could apply what Kim Jong-un does. So we are a bit of a ways from it, but there is a core that exists right now in the social media discourse. There's so many great teachings that I'm seeing in the social media space, be it even Facebook, be it even Twitter. Kenya has huge intellectual resources, and that's where people are learning stuff now.
That is true.
In earlier days, something like the BBI would have been, you'd have seen people in university dissecting it, political science students dissecting it, arguing about it, even fighting about it. You'd be hearing Law Society of Kenya saying this, that, or the other about it. You'd be hearing the church saying this, that, or the other about it. Now it's just like, okay, what position can I get in there? That's it, because the soul is gone. So I think we'll need to hit rock bottom before we float back up. Yeah, a ball cannot bounce from midair; it has to hit the ground first. And I think that it will happen sooner rather than later. But I'm encouraged by our youth. But by the youth, I'm looking at this group who are mid-30s and below. Those are our hope. The group who are around from late mid-40s and above 50s, they're completely lost.
My generation.
Yes, yeah, those are us.
That's why I'm so lonely. God.
We are irredeemably defiled.
Completely, we are gone.
We are compromised. We are cowardly. We are silent in the face of injustice, and we are completely useless. And all those countries that are strong in the world today, that's the group that's leading. Those countries with a good number of their leadership around the 40s and 50s, that's sort of your intellectually, your knowledge is at its peak, and your energy has not yet reached its decline.
Yeah.
So that's, you can do your best stuff there. And that's the group in Kenya that are following BBI, are singing, dancing reggae, are praising the military for taking over Kenya Meat Commission, and are completely intellectually hollow. And that is the root of our problem in Kenya. But our group will soon fall into decline, and the youth will come up, simply because we won't have the authority to tell them anything, because those of us who have been silent won't have the authority to tell them anything. And I see it from myself, because when I mentor some young students or advise them, I've lived what I'm telling them. And they've seen it. And that matters. That matters. You can say so much, but your example matters most, I think.
Sorry to say, I didn't intend to ask this question, but what happened to our generation? How did we get here? What happened? Because even I get surprised. When I finished my doctoral studies, I was so excited about what we can do, but I found that actually you're not supposed to do anything. In fact, doing is what gets you, like you're saying, applying your knowledge is what gets you into trouble.
Yeah.
But now I've begun to feel that it's a generational problem. Yeah, I think, like you're saying, 40s and between mid-40s and mid-60s, something wrong.
And I think what happened is that we might be victims of what happened in the world as we matured, because I started hearing of this, milestones. People think that by a certain age you needed to have achieved this, that, the other. The milestones became material. My first million was some of the bullshit you had around. My first car, home ownership. None of these goals were academic. Like if you are let's say a mathematician, no one will tell you like by age 40, you should have come up with some new formula of fluid mechanics or something like that. Or you're a literature student. Really, you should have written your first book by 35. Someone should tell you something like that. You are an architect. By 35 or 40, you should have designed 3-4 houses. And literally, even if it's your uncle's house, tell your uncle who's building a house or something, let me design it for you. And I'll do it well, and I'll put it in my portfolio. And by the time being employed, I say, I've designed 3 houses. And or biology, conservation, you should have found a solution or proposed a solution to this conservation problem by the time you finish this. But yeah, it was, people enter a university, I need to be a professor by 2010.
Oh yeah.
Or I need to do and complete your PhD by age this. Then you start having these stupid awards, top 40, under 40. So what if you're under or over 40? It's about what you have done. And I can share a story of, there's one guy who was part of my PhD class at Kenyatta University. I mean, by the time I completed my PhD, I was just about 40. I was 38 by then. This guy was about 56 years old. His PhD was in fluid mechanics or something. And some people wondered, like, how come this guy is doing this thing, achieving this milestone so late? The leading geothermal nations in the world, Finland, New Zealand, and somewhere else in Scandinavia, he designed their systems.
No way.
Like someone met him when he was a 20-something-year-old student, and he blew someone away with his brilliance. And he'd been working for those years designing geothermal systems around the world that we are just getting to in Kenya now. His thesis was, I think, a 10-page long formula. His thesis could not even be hardbound. It was a few pages, like 10. There were no references because no one knows what he knows. So what if he's 56? Look at what he's... Many people given 10 lifetimes won't do what he did.
Or 10 PhDs.
Yes. Want to do what he did. Kenya is still struggling today to do what he did. And even our geothermal systems here, he's not involved.
He wouldn't be. They wouldn't allow him.
The other New Zealand people have taken him again. Yeah. You see, so that's what I think I think that was the growth of neoliberalism in the world when our age group were maturing.
Yes.
And suddenly our goals in life became material goals. Home ownership, gari ndogo, then gari kubwa, then my child to be in shule fulani, and these kind of things. And to maintain, when someone's now giving you a crappy job, asking you to steal money or falsify data or sell out your birthright, your natural heritage, and he's giving you the money to afford that big car, dummy, you do it, and you're proud. Look at the car. I live in Karen or wherever. I've bought land wherever. And it's like there are some of the cultures, it even differs. It's more pressure than others between sort of different ethnic groups. There's some ethnic groups that say you must have a plot by whatever age. Why is plots the highest selling thing even on Classic 105 in the morning? It's because our aims have become material. I live in Laikipia, and people from Nairobi have been calling me and telling me that, asking me about a certain place where they have already bought a plot. So what's that place like? He's already paid and bought because he felt he needed to buy a plot, and he was told it has uninterrupted views of Mount Kenya, nanini. And I told him, an interrupted view of Mount Kenya starts from Thika. It could be anywhere. And I find out and tell me the place is called this and this, and I tell my God, that's not Nanyuki. It's in the bush. It's 2 hours from Nanyuki. And he owns 1/8 of an acre there.
1/8?
Yes. Because it's about land, it's about material, it's land, not how much, not how useful. And again, people are brought up in town, so spatial knowledge is almost
challenge.
Lost. Yeah. When I was young, we'd hire casual laborers for weeding, and with Pima quarter acre, we pay you this much or whatever. So I sort of have a vision of what an acre is. Many people have no idea what an acre is. Do you know how many people buy 50 by 100 plots, thinking that 50 by 100 is meters, not knowing it's feet? 100 meters is basically an acre. But 50 by 100 feet is some small stamp. And I tell people, look, you have to think spatially. Lie down on the floor, that's 6 feet. Do that math and think what you're buying and what you're going to do with that 50 by 100 or 1/8 out in the middle of Laikipia.
But there's an obsession with land.
Yeah, now I own land. Now I own land. So he's happy. So I think when we got into that materialism, everything else, our soul, that's where our soul got lost. That's where when someone's doing things that are unjust, immoral, but if he drives a big car, it's okay. It's okay. You see these tenderpreneurs making billions and all, and their goals are cars. You find someone making so much money and he drives a 20 million shilling car and he lives in a 500,000 shilling per month apartment. And you wonder, like, why doesn't he sort of buy a house or something else? Or why isn't he doing any? None of the things he's doing has any intellectual underpinnings. So I think that's why. So again, some people are seeing the path to that is through theft. Some people, ironically, are even seeing that the path to that is by getting degrees. I need to get my master's so I can get 5 million.
Yeah.
That could happen, but that shouldn't be the reason. I think that's what happened to us. Yeah.
I've been told by fellow academics that I'm stupid for not pursuing money. Because university is about money. You get your degrees for money. That's what intellectual life is about.
KICD. Those are things people would. You're saying these things in the KICD. And I know because these positions have reached a point that they defile people. I mean, I myself applied for the position of Director General of KWS. And in the recently subverted recruitment, and I pause for thought now, and I think, like, oh my God, if I succeeded, that potentially could have destroyed me. There's sort of no middle ground. Either I'd have been wildly successful, completely managed to change our conservation policy and thinking, or it would have destroyed me. And I think I know which would have been more likely.
Yeah, I think even me, I think I know. I don't think you'd be successful. And you see, nobody will tell you. And the worst thing that happens is once you're recruited, everybody's saying, oh, now you can do something. So basically your mouth is closed. It's sealed. Because now you can't talk, having the position and not done what you're talking about.
Yeah, and to achieve the smallest gains, you have to do so much politicking and blackmail and this and that stuff I'm not equipped to do. Yeah, so it would have been a very difficult situation.
So thank you so much. Maybe you can leave us with a parting shot, an idea, something to leave us thinking about.
Yeah. One of the key things going on in the world today is what's called the New Deal for Nature. It's a proposal it's a proposal on the surface to conserve nature and conserve an environment. UNEP has jumped onto the bandwagon, and all international big conservation NGOs. And the proposal is to have 30% of the Earth's landmass under protection or conservation structure of some sort. In Kenya, we are pursuing this. We are pursuing this through NGOs, and NGOs are sponsoring many of our colleagues in the conservation world to learn how to value nature, i.e. to put a dollar amount on Lake Victoria or Mount Kenya Forest or Amboseli. bizarre as that is. And these Kenyan conservationists seem to think they're doing something very good. There is no dollar amount on any resource, even my little compound here. On the ownership of nature and our natural heritage is priceless. So I think we should avoid that, because the only reason why someone would ask you to put a dollar amount on something you own is because he wants to buy it. Why can't someone ask you to tell him what your son or your daughter is worth? Or why would you refuse if he asked you? Because you're not intending to sell your son or your daughter. But if you agree, the only purpose of getting that dollar amount is so that he can decide if he can afford it, or he can mobilize the money to afford it. So let's not sell our birthright. Our environment is part of us. It's not a commodity, it's our identity. And we keep it clean, we keep it in order, we use it as we like. If some visitor likes it, he's welcome to come and see it, or she's welcome to come and see it. But we are not doing it for them. None of what we do to our environment or for our environment is for visitors. It is for us. And if they don't like it, we don't want them here. If you don't like the color of seats in my house, don't come to my house. Those seats were made for me and my family to enjoy. So if you like it, welcome as a guest, but we must realize what we own. The whole world would never come. People are coming from thousands of miles away here about our environment. If it was worth nothing, they wouldn't come. Yeah. If you got up today and told tourists, we don't want you, don't come to Kenya, they would still come. You could keep them out. So let's stop selling ourselves short. Let's welcome visitors, but let's not sell our birthright. Because at the end of the day, that really is all we have.
Okay. Mordecai, thank you so much for such an enlightening discussion. Thank you.